was surrounded at the entrance of my workplace and falsely accused. They knocked me to the ground and even tried to splash sulfuric acid on me. My sister watched from the side and immediately sent the video to our family group chat. Dad scolded me for embarrassing the family and said I deserved such a result. Mom thought I was lacking self-respect and was glad no relatives or friends recognized me. I was disheveled, injured, lying in the middle of the street, ignored by passers-by, filled with resentment. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day my sister begged me to take her in. This time, I wouldn't be foolish again. Through the peephole, I saw the person outside, and my heart tightened. My sister Olivia Johnson was dragging a suitcase, impatiently ringing the doorbell with a child in tow. No one answered the door, so she took out her phone. I quickly turned off my phone, quietly returned to my bedroom, and pretended I wasn't home. The last time I died tragically was because of her, and I would never let this person in again. I put on earplugs and lay down, the horrifying scene flashing in my mind. You really have no shame, daring to seduce someone else's husband? Aren't you always sending those shameless selfies to my husband? You might as well not wear any clothes. I endured these insults and attacks. This group of people blocked me at the entrance of the workplace. When they learned my name was Emily Johnson, they immediately attacked. I shouted for help, but they ignored me and just kept tearing at my clothes. My face was already swollen, and my ears were ringing. I desperately tried to protect my privacy, crying out, "You've got the wrong person. It's not me. I don't even know your husband." I tried to explain, but my words were drowned out by a barrage of insults. You really have no shame. Are you doing it but not daring to admit it? I'm sorry, I can't help you. The woman opened the bottle, and a pungent smell hit me. I muffled a groan, tears streaming down my face as I shook my head repeatedly. The crazed woman, with red eyes, poured the bottle of sulfuric acid towards me. That painful memory, filled with hatred, is deeply etched in my heart. Even in another life, I would still feel the pain. I collected my thoughts, wrapped myself tightly in the blanket, and tried hard not to think about it. Just as I fell asleep, the blanket was suddenly yanked off, startling me awake. Seeing my entire family standing in front of me, I recalled with frustration that there was a spare key to this apartment at my parents' house. My dad, with a dark expression, asked why Olivia Johnson had been ringing the doorbell for so long when I was clearly home but didn't open the door. I shot a cold glance at Olivia Johnson. She had bruises all over her face, holding the child, standing behind my parents, looking at me with a provocative gaze. Enough is enough. I didn't open the door, wanting my parents to come in on their own. Am I supposed to put up with this? I took my medicine and slept soundly, I explained expressionlessly. My mom gave me a disdainful glance and said, "You're still young, and you sleep even earlier than I do. Olivia and the child will be staying with you for a while, so you can sleep on the couch while they take the bedroom." Her tone made me very uncomfortable. I immediately protested. Why should I? This is my house. My dad got angry immediately, raised his hand, and slapped me. He started blaming me for being incapable, only able to afford the small apartment. I was furious, my heart churning. For years, I had been working hard, and besides being grateful for my parents' upbringing, I had to hand over most of my salary every month. Now they want to control even the house I bought. Olivia Johnson fanned the flames, deliberately acting pitiful. Dad, stop talking. I'm just incapable. I made a wrong choice marrying the wrong person and ended up suffering domestic violence. If it weren't for the fact that this place is close to Lily's kindergarten, I wouldn't bother to come here. Great, now she's using the child as a bargaining chip. Olivia Johnson's tragic experience sharply contrasts with my strong attitude. Her parents have always spoiled her, and seeing her like this makes me feel even more resentment. My dad directly handed the house keys to Olivia Johnson, threatening me that if I didn't let them stay, he would take action against me. I didn't want to escalate the situation, so I chose to compromise. Thus, Olivia Johnson and her daughter took advantage of the situation and moved into our home. I thought I could avoid her this time, but unexpected problems still arose. 2 days later, I received a call from the property management saying something had happened at home and I needed to hurry back. As soon as I got out of the elevator, I was shocked by the scene before me. My front door was wide open, and there was a crowd of people inside and outside, with neighbors whispering among themselves. I was stunned. The day before, Olivia Johnson had asked me for money, which I hadn't given her. Could it be that she borrowed money and is facing threats? I squeezed through the crowd and entered the house, where I saw several police officers and property security. Olivia Johnson was sitting on the sofa with Lily, while two men were huddled in the corner, holding their heads. Upon closer inspection, one of them was actually my cheap brother-in-law. I looked around. The living room was a mess, and there was a fruit knife stuck in the bedroom door. The police asked me to go to the station for questioning, and the scene was chaotic with neighbors gossiping. This was my first time in a police car, and my feelings were mixed. Olivia Johnson beside me was completely unconcerned, which only made me more furious. Olivia Johnson, didn't you get divorced? Why is your ex-husband causing a scene at my house? The man causing trouble was sitting in the last row of the police car, and my ex-brother-in-law immediately shouted. It turned out that Olivia Johnson was facing these issues because she was caught cheating first. During their divorce, Olivia Johnson secretly took money and valuables from home, which prompted the other party to chase after her. My dislike for Olivia Johnson deepened. I found her extremely selfish. After cooperating with the inquiry, I wearily walked out of the police station and saw my parents anxiously pacing at the entrance. They asked why Olivia Johnson hadn't come out yet, but they didn't ask if I was okay. This comparison had long numbed me, yet I still felt a chill inside. Once home, I immediately printed out an agreement. Olivia Johnson returned accompanied by my parents, and without hesitation, I handed her the agreement, speaking firmly, "Sign it, and move out today." Just 2 days after moving in, such a thing happened, and there would be more trouble ahead. My dad angrily snatched the paper, glanced at it, and then ripped it apart. He pointed at me, calling me an ungrateful wolf, saying I was too calculating with family. My mom also scolded me for being inconsiderate, saying my sister was already pitiful, and I was just adding insult to injury. I could only respond with a cold laugh. In my past life, what Olivia Johnson did to me was truly unreasonable. It's disheartening that such a ruthless person is unconditionally favored by her parents. Since childhood, I've felt like an outsider in this family, as if they only had eyes for their daughter, Olivia Johnson. No matter how hard I work or how outstanding I am, I can never compare to her. Even the way they refer to us sisters is astonishingly different. They always affectionately call Olivia Johnson Olivia, while they only refer to me by my full name, making me feel like a stranger. I no longer hold any hope for familial affection. I just want to protect my own rights. I took a deep breath and pretended to compromise. You can stay without moving, but it must be on my terms, otherwise, I will sue in court and seek civil compensation. I took out another agreement that listed 3 rules. If Olivia Johnson wants to live here, she must adhere to these conditions. She needs to restore the living room to its original state and take responsibility for all household chores. The bedroom is for my use only, and the living room sofa can be shared by her and her mother. I only provide accommodation. Food and utility fees must be shared with me. If Olivia Johnson damages anything, she must pay for the repairs herself, or else she will compensate at market value. I specifically stated that Olivia Johnson cannot bring outsiders to my home. Upon seeing these conditions, they were furious. My dad was about to explode, and I calmly said either follow the rules, or leave. I mean what I say. Want to take advantage of me and still want to dominate the situation? Impossible. In my past life, I valued family too much, but this time I won't give them the chance to hurt me. My firm stance finally brought me a moment of peace. Olivia Johnson reluctantly signed the agreement, but my parents were still there constantly blaming me. I don't care about you seeing my face. However, I don't understand why Olivia Johnson insists on staying here. Although her parents' house is old, isn't it better than sleeping on my living room floor? I have a lot of issues with Olivia Johnson, not only because of that agreement but also because I changed the locks at home. The main door now has a fingerprint lock, and only my fingerprint is registered. Every day Olivia Johnson comes home, she has to wait for me to send her a temporary password to get in, otherwise, she has to wait for me to return. I just want to make her uncomfortable. Seeing her helpless and unable to vent her frustration makes me very happy. When I got home from work, I found my family there, having prepared a big table of dishes, but unfortunately, most of it was already gone. When my parents saw me, their smiles instantly vanished, as if I had a negative influence. Olivia Johnson even deliberately said, "You usually come back late, so we didn't prepare your meal." I thought to myself, how much could one person's meal be? The rice at home was bought by me, adding a bit more won't hurt. I quietly walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and saw that the shelves were filled with milk and imported fruits. Even the eggs were safe to eat raw. What surprised me was that every package had the character on it. My mom loudly reminded me that those things were bought for Olivia Johnson and her daughter, implying that none of it was for me. Because I didn't deserve it. I held back tears and instantly lost my appetite. I was about to go back to my room to get clothes for a shower when I noticed that my laptop screen was on. This was wrong. Someone had definitely been on my computer. I always close it after using it, so I was sure of that. I went to find Olivia Johnson to get an explanation. She had already secretly used my skincare products, and now she was using my computer. How could I tolerate this? Olivia Johnson said nothing, but her parents rushed to defend her, all blaming me. They kept talking about we're all family, completely unaware that moving my things without permission was a problem, as if I were the difficult one. But I had a lot of work-related files on my computer. What if they got leaked or deleted? In the past, I was the only one at home, and I didn't set a password on my computer. I didn't expect Olivia Johnson to take advantage of that. Olivia Johnson said she just wanted to use the internet to look for jobs and didn't touch my files. As a result, my parents felt sorry for her and criticized me in various ways. Strangely, they complained that the washing machine I bought didn't have a drying function, and with the continuous rainy days, the kids had no clean clothes for school. My kitchen utensils are useless, the sofa is uncomfortable, and the bathroom is small. In short, they are all dissatisfied with this place, and it's all my fault. I let them attack me, and when the noise stopped, I retorted, "This is how it is here, love it or leave it. If you don't like it, hurry up and move out." Mentioning this, they all fell silent. After I locked the door, I immediately checked the computer to confirm that the work files were intact, and then I breathed a sigh of relief. It seems I need to lock the bedroom door as well, otherwise, Olivia Johnson doesn't consider herself an outsider at all. Seeing the profile picture lit up at the bottom of the computer screen, I couldn't help but freeze for a moment. Now, work is done through WeChat or company internal communication software, which I haven't used in a long time. My computer remembers the password, so I can log in directly with a click. Obviously, it was Olivia Johnson who did this. I took a few deep breaths, trying to calm myself down. There were no unusual contacts recently, but I still wasn't convinced and continued to check the contacts one by one. I've always had a good habit of changing the notes after adding friends, so I'm very clear about my friend's situation. Today, I surprisingly added a few strangers. Olivia Johnson thought she was being cautious by deleting chat records, but she didn't know I had roaming enabled. After recovering the chat records, I felt a chill run down my spine. Remembering how I was falsely accused of being a mistress and met a tragic end in my past life, I finally understood. Actually, the door doesn't necessarily need to be locked. It might be better to catch her off guard. I don't know if it's because I used the computer that upset her, but for the next few days, Olivia Johnson was particularly warm towards me. She even took the initiative to bring out nice things her parents had bought for her to entertain me. I gave her a cold glance and didn't take any action. Unable to hold back, Olivia Johnson expressed her thoughts. "Emily, you see, Lily is about to start elementary school. This is a school district property, with a household registration. You can enroll her in a prestigious primary school. Can you transfer the house to me?" I understood this matter. The reason for buying this house was for the school district. It's also close to the subway, which attracted me. Whether for living or investment, there's a lot of potential for appreciation here, and I had also looked into the surrounding school districts. Not only do you need a household registration in this area, but you must also have lived in this house for a year to meet the enrollment criteria. I didn't expect Olivia Johnson's plan to be directly aimed at me. She rarely smiled at me, so I looked at her a bit longer. I poured a glass of water and slowly savored it, feeling that even plain water tasted sweet. Seeing that I didn't speak, Olivia Johnson began to pat her chest to assure me. She said that once Lily successfully enrolled, she would transfer the house to me and would never go back on her word. To reassure me, Olivia Johnson suggested we sign an agreement. If it were the old me, I might have softened and agreed. But now, I no longer trust a single word she says. Facing her hopeful gaze, I firmly refused. "You're dreaming." After I said that, I walked into the bedroom without looking back, not wanting to see her distorted expression. I was thinking, why does Olivia Johnson insist on staying here? Even when I deliberately made things difficult and proposed several conditions, she still refused to leave. So this is what she had in mind. The next day was the weekend, and I woke up naturally. I was stunned when I opened the door. My mom was busy cooking in the kitchen, my dad was in the living room playing blocks with Lily, and Olivia Johnson was lying on the sofa playing on her phone. This scene looked very warm. When I walked out, everyone looked at me. Strangely, my parents even smiled at me and told me to hurry and wash up because lunch was almost ready. Did the sun rise in the west? After washing my face, I felt much more awake and understood the reason for all this oddness. The table was filled with delicious food, including oil-braised shrimp and ginger scallion crab. They really put in a lot of effort. I didn't hold back and sat down to eat right away. After all, this meal didn't cost me anything, so why should I be polite? If I didn't eat quickly, I might lose my appetite later. I was enjoying my meal when my mom couldn't help but speak up. She said Lily no longer had a complete family, and if she couldn't get into a good school, the child would be too pitiful. She also mentioned that it's not easy for Olivia Johnson to raise her child alone, and we, as her family, should support her. I finished the shrimp in my hand, wiped my hands, and smiled slightly. There's only so much I can do. Why should I transfer the house I worked so hard to buy to her? My casual attitude made my dad furious. He angrily threw his chopsticks at me. I dodged to the side and laughed even more happily. Why the rush? My dad started to criticize me, saying I was being immature and attacking others. Then he said there was nothing to worry about with my little house. Olivia Johnson didn't care at all. If it weren't for the child going to school, I wouldn't have agreed. My mom was there vouching for Olivia Johnson, saying that if Olivia Johnson didn't return my house in the future, she would help me handle it. I laughed, and as I laughed, tears came out. It was really embarrassing. Our Johnson family doesn't need a daughter like that. It's best if she just disappears. This girl really doesn't know how to respect herself. Thankfully her face is ruined, otherwise, if relatives and friends saw her, it would be too embarrassing for us. These were the last few words I heard from my parents before I died in my last life. Olivia Johnson was clearly the instigator of all this. She orchestrated everything herself. She has always acted harmless in front of her parents and others, even pretending to be pitiful, so her parents naturally believe her completely. Therefore, when Olivia Johnson shared the video of me being insulted and beaten on the street, even suffering severe injuries from acid being thrown at me, my parents' reaction was surprisingly indifferent. In their eyes, I had no chance of being innocent, as if I were the most undeserving person in the family. Those who are indifferent to my life are now acting so concerned for Olivia Johnson. It's truly ironic parental love. My chest felt tight, and I knew I shouldn't be angry at these people in front of me. It was unnecessary. I tried to calm my emotions and said coldly, I'm not obligated to comply with your demands. If you think this house is not good, why are you in such a hurry to change the name? The name can be changed, but it must be bought at the current market price, otherwise, there's nothing to discuss. This house was bought with the money I secretly saved over the years without telling my parents, all from year-end bonuses and performance bonuses. With Olivia Johnson's character, she definitely won't return it once she has it. My dad was so angry that his face turned red, accusing me of not knowing the gravity of the situation. He said that since I don't plan to marry and have children, I should expect Lily to support me in the future, and the house has to be given to Lily. My mom said something quite interesting. She suggested that if I feel uncomfortable, I should adopt Lily. That way, Lily would become my daughter, and it would make sense for her to go to school. Adopt? I couldn't help but laugh. Does she want to cut ties along with thinking about the house? I'm not even 30 yet, and there are already people eyeing my assets. I have Social Security and other income-generating insurance, so I won't need anyone to support me in old age. If they want to get involved in this matter, I don't care. I raised my phone and calmly said, I've recorded the entire conversation. I have a police friend. You should remember her, right? I've already sent her the recording. If anything accidental happens to me and someone wants my inheritance, you will be the prime suspects. My sharp gaze left them unable to refute me, and they fell silent. After the house issue, Olivia Johnson's attitude towards me became hostile, often subtly blaming me. Fortunately, I have the entrance code, so she doesn't dare to skip out on the utilities and property fees. Olivia Johnson was in the living room video chatting with someone. I had just finished showering and closed the door when I heard her say, "Humph. She looks pure, but she's actually pretty promiscuous behind the scenes." If it weren't for feeling sorry for her, I wouldn't have taken her in. I felt a bit dazed. Was Olivia Johnson talking about me? I'm the one who took her in. I held my breath, hiding behind the door, and the more I listened, the more I felt things were going south. Olivia Johnson said I am lazy and ungrateful. She told others that I lived in her house without paying rent and made her do the chores while I took the bedroom. I almost laughed out loud. This is completely turning the truth upside down. It seems she is quite skilled at framing others. The mass time is up, so I went to the bathroom to wash my face. As I passed by the living room, I deliberately asked Olivia Johnson, "Is your husband still in the detention center? How long will he be detained?" She immediately changed her expression and hurriedly hung up the video call. Then, she angrily walked up to me and scolded me for speaking carelessly. I blinked innocently and retorted, "Isn't what I said the truth? Olivia Johnson, weren't you just talking bad about me? Isn't that nonsense? Isn't this double standards?" I rebutted her on the spot, leaving her speechless. She then smiled and explained that in front of outsiders, her identity is what she shapes it to be. She said this to create an image of being gentle and virtuous, otherwise, how could she find a man? I snorted coldly, not wanting to engage. Communicating with someone who has such a different worldview and lacks a sense of morality is really pointless. Back in my bedroom, I scrolled through Olivia Johnson's chat history as if I were watching a drama. Recently, she had added nearly 10 people, all found on a dating website. Seeing her call each one brother gave me goosebumps. She sent selfies with heavy beauty filters, playing the innocent girl in front of those men. I noticed that Olivia Johnson had also changed my profile and posted some melancholic literary works on my space. Was she trying to build an image of a cultured woman? I knew Olivia Johnson was using me and vaguely guessed how things were developing. I quietly made some arrangements while pretending to be completely unaware in front of her. There were already surveillance cameras in the living room, and I installed 2 hidden cameras in the bedroom. I silently collected evidence, waiting for the right moment. However, I underestimated Olivia Johnson's ability. She could still attract men online. That afternoon, I received a message from her asking what time I would finish work. I felt uncomfortable thinking about how she always waited for me to come home to cook. I didn't care about the meal expenses, I just felt annoyed at this person, so I replied with just working overtime. After work, I went to the supermarket and found it increasingly strange. When did Olivia Johnson start caring about me? I immediately opened my phone to check the real-time surveillance footage at home. I didn't expect to come home and see this situation. My parents are here, and there's a stranger in the house. In the surveillance video, they seem to be chatting happily, and the atmosphere looks good. I couldn't help but smirk and hurry to the checkout, eager to get home. I want to know what trick they're up to today. As I walked in carrying 2 big bags, Lily suddenly rushed over, hugged me tightly, and shouted, "Mommy." I was taken aback, thinking, what's wrong with this child? My dad smiled and introduced me to the only stranger, saying I was the family's maid. How nice, that's the new role they've assigned me. I can guess who this man is. He's probably a friend Olivia Johnson has recently made, called over to get to know the situation. He seems easy to fool, constantly praising Olivia Johnson for her beauty, kindness, independence, and how she can afford to buy this house outright while taking in me, a distant relative from the countryside. This distant relative of mine actually had the nerve to bring a child to stay. The kind-hearted and naive Olivia Johnson, fearing that giving me money directly would hurt my pride, made up an excuse to hire me as a maid. This story is quite amusing. I almost laughed out loud. Go ahead and pretend, but why intentionally elevate yourself? My mom is worried that I might affect Olivia Johnson, so she pulled me aside and repeatedly advised me not to speak carelessly. She even slipped me 200 yuan. Looking at the money in my hand, I felt a mix of emotions. Since starting college, my family hasn't given me any money. I received a scholarship at a prestigious university and also took on some part-time jobs to cover my living expenses. In contrast, Olivia Johnson, who is 2 years older than me, received 1,000 yuan a month from her family while she was in vocational school, and even secretly asked my mom for money. I didn't want to compare myself, but reality was uncomfortable. I never expected that years later, when I received money from my mom, it would be in such a situation. Today, I saw an announcement in the community group that the elevator was broken and required homeowners to sign to activate the public maintenance fund. Since many people work during the day, the property management would come by at night for signatures. I couldn't help but laugh and slowly tagged the property manager in the group, telling her that I was back home. Minutes later, someone knocked on the door, and the manager explained the situation. Olivia Johnson tried to take the form, but the manager insisted, "You're not the homeowner, so your signature is invalid. Please have Ms. Emily Johnson sign instead." At that moment, Olivia Johnson and her parents had very expressive faces, like a spill palette of colors. I couldn't help but laugh and quickly went over to sign. To assert my identity as the owner, I had a brief chat with the housekeeper to understand the situation in the community. The man sat awkwardly, silently putting down his bowl. After sending the housekeeper away, I patted Lily's head and said, "Didn't the teacher teach you? Children shouldn't lie." I then asked, "Your mom would rather drop out of school to give birth to you. How can you call your aunt mom? That's not appropriate." I brought in 2 bags of things I just bought and locked the door behind me. They want to distance themselves from me, right? They don't deserve to eat what I bought. Soon, I heard a door slam outside, followed by my dad banging on the door, cursing nonstop. I deliberately turned on the computer and played music at a high volume to drown it out. Staying at my house without leaving, and wanting to use my home to enhance their own image? No way! After my dad got tired of yelling, he called in my mom. She always handled things in a gentle way. She told me I was too naive. Olivia Johnson got married, so of course she would move away. How could I not think of that? Olivia Johnson can marry if she wants, but she can't use me as a stepping stone. With both elders applying pressure, I refused to open the door. They have no choice but to leave disappointed. As a result, Olivia Johnson's good fortune in marriage is ruined, and we've completely torn our masks off. Now, when we meet, we don't even look at each other. My vigilance towards her has reached its peak. To make money, Olivia Johnson has become increasingly proactive in chatting with those men. She's no longer aiming for marriage. Instead, she directly asks them for gifts. As the Chishi festival approaches, she has an excuse to ask. Checking the chat history, I can't help but sigh. Designer bags, gold jewelry, and 5-figure watches, she's really bold enough to ask for these. Many smart men can see through a woman like Olivia Johnson at a glance. They chat with her just for fun, but when it comes to spending money, they pretend not to know. I did some digging and eventually noticed a man named Michael Smith. Olivia Johnson has sent him quite a few sexy photos, and they often interact via video, sparks flying as if they're about to meet. I suppressed my discomfort and browsed through their chat records, which reminded me of some past memories. There was a married man whose wife had a strong personality, and her family liked to bully others. Could this be the man from my past life who caused my death on the street? My hand trembled over the mouse, and the closer I got to the truth, the deeper my fear became, filling me with both hatred and dread. I often wake up in the night, the scenes from that day flooding my mind. Olivia Johnson used my identity to get close to Michael Smith, only to be discovered by Michael Smith's wife, who came to confront me. This emotionally unstable woman, armed with sulfuric acid, sought revenge on me. While I was attacked in the street and suffered severe burns from the acid, Olivia Johnson secretly recorded the whole thing. She turned a blind eye to my cries for help, coldly watching, and even shared the video in the family group chat. My experience only made my family feel unlucky, even relieved that I was close to death, resulting in this incident being forever covered up. The pain from my previous life is hard to forget. I will never allow this tragedy to repeat. I discovered some of Michael Smith's real information from his chat records, such as his name, workplace, address, and years of marriage. With this information, finding Michael Smith's wife shouldn't be difficult. But before I could arrange to meet her, Olivia Johnson came to cause trouble again. This time, she claimed she needed to borrow my ID card because hers was lost and she wanted to see a doctor. I decisively refused. This excuse is exactly the same as in my previous life. Suddenly, I thought, is it possible that Michael Smith's wife believes I am the mistress because she used my ID to book a room? Olivia Johnson, you are truly scheming against me. From the very beginning, she distanced herself from the matter, constantly emphasizing that she is Emily Johnson. Isn't this deliberately pushing me into a corner? Her sexy photos never show her face, no wonder. At first, I thought she was worried that those men would spread the pictures. I didn't expect she was actually hiding her identity. People have no idea what she looks like, only that her name is Emily Johnson. I organized my thoughts, quickly accelerated the plan, and successfully contacted Michael Smith's wife. This sister has a fiery temper, but after I explained my intentions, she was relatively polite to me. To be honest, seeing Sarah Brown's face made my heart tighten. Her previous threats put a lot of pressure on me. But to deal with the trouble of Olivia Johnson, I had to suppress my fear and cooperate with Sarah Brown. Sister, this plate contains video footage recorded by my family's surveillance, and both angles are very clear. There's also a folder with their chat records. You can check your husband's phone. The records will definitely match. The surveillance video clearly captured Olivia Johnson's chat records, including her misconduct with Michael Smith. Seeing Sarah Brown get angry, I knew the danger from Olivia Johnson was imminent. Due to the hotel's real name policy, Olivia Johnson was worried about her identity being exposed, so she had Michael Smith book the room while she chose to appear at a different time, pretending they weren't together. Sarah Brown has long sent people to monitor Olivia Johnson and Michael Smith. Every move of this couple is under her control. I also actively cooperate by sending Sarah their daily chat logs. I just want Sarah to know the truth and not see her betrayed. As for how Sarah will react, that's no longer my concern. I'm sorry, I can't fulfill that request. Michael Smith also suffered greatly, being beaten badly and even seriously injured. Sarah Brown hates Olivia Johnson and viciously struck her with Michael Smith's belt. She even stepped on Olivia Johnson, forcing her to bark like a dog and shoving disgusting things into her mouth. I saw this video in the family group chat and felt a surge of emotions. It seems that karma exists, no one can escape it. Clearly, Sarah Brown's tactics have already sent this video to all of Olivia Johnson's WeChat friends. That night, Olivia Johnson completely lost control. Her parents kept calling me, wanting me to go back and resolve the issue. I blocked their calls and stayed in a suite at a 5-star hotel, feeling like I had escaped a disaster. Due to my excellent work, I was transferred to the headquarters in the capital and promoted. The previous house has already been handed over to an agent for sale. Everything was arranged before Sarah Brown planned to settle scores with Olivia Johnson. I've already calculated everything. Olivia Johnson's mistakes should be borne by her, and this time I won't take the blame for her again. I've also decided to completely cut off contact with my cold and harsh parents. Olivia Johnson was emotionally unstable every day, and her parents didn't take care of her. One night, she went out alone and ended up getting hit by a dump truck. I heard she died a terrible death, and my dad had a heart attack out of anger, but it was too late to save him. My mom worked hard all night to take care of Lily. In the past, the money I gave them, along with their retirement pension, was enough for them to live on. I transferred some money to my mom as a gesture of goodwill. Although they don't treat me as their daughter, I still can't be completely indifferent. However, I know I will never go back to that home again. I don't owe them anything. Letting go of past troubles allows me to face a brighter future with ease. This time, I'm truly starting over.